Before I tell you about Daniel, I need to tell you about who I was before Daniel. Because I think that's the part people always skip. They start the love story at the moment he walked in. But the real story starts before that, with who you were when you were still entirely yourself. I was 24, living in a small apartment in Manhattan, 2 plants on the windowsill, both alive, which I was proud of. A shelf full of books I was actually reading, a yoga mat I was actually using, a journal I wrote in every single morning before I did anything else. I had friends, real ones, the kind you call at 11 p.m., the kind who show up. I had a job I cared about, writing for a small magazine, not glamorous, but mine. And I had a dream, London, a bigger publication, a life I was slowly building toward something. I was not perfect. I was lonely sometimes. I wanted love. Of course I wanted love. But I was okay. I was genuinely, quietly okay. I want you to remember that version of me. Because she matters. She matters more than anything that comes next. Her name was also Sarah, and I am only now learning to be her again. It was a Wednesday, February, cold outside, the way only New York knows how to be cold. That specific cold that goes through your coat, like it has a personal problem with you. I was at my usual coffee shop on 5th Avenue, corner table, laptop open. Headphones in. Deadline in 2 hours. Completely in my own world. And then, someone sat down across from me. Not beside me. Across. Like he had already decided this was where he was supposed to be. I looked up. He was tall, dark jacket, slightly messy hair in the way that looks accidental, but probably isn't. He had this expression, like he was about to say something, and was already a little embarrassed about it. He said, "Every other seat is taken. I promise I'm completely normal." Well, mostly normal. Actually, that's probably not reassuring. Can I sit here? I almost smiled. Almost. I said, "You're already sitting." He looked down. Laughed. That laugh. I should have been more careful with that laugh. His name was Daniel, architecture student, final year, from Chicago originally. Hated the cold, but loved New York. Black coffee, 1 sugar, read actual physical books, had strong opinions about buildings the way other people have strong opinions about sports teams. We talked for 2 hours. My deadline passed. I didn't notice until he left. He stood up to go, put on his jacket, and then paused, like he was deciding something. He said, "Same time next Wednesday?" Not, "Can I have your number?" Not, "We should hang out sometime, just same time next Wednesday," like it was already decided, like this was already a thing. I said, "I'm usually here anyway." Which was true, but also, yes, obviously, yes. He smiled, walked out, and I sat there with a cold coffee and a missed deadline and something that felt dangerously like hope. First thing I gave up for Daniel, that deadline, that article, that small piece of my professional life. It seemed like nothing. It was nothing, that time. But it was the first time, and first times matter, because they teach you what you're willing to give. And once you give something once, it gets easier to give more. He was there the next Wednesday, already at the corner table, black coffee, 1 sugar, waiting. We talked for 3 hours that time. I didn't open my laptop once. The Wednesday after that, same. And then it wasn't just Wednesdays. It was texts throughout the day. It was him sending me photos of buildings he passed with little voice notes explaining why the architecture mattered. It was songs at 11 p.m. Just. This reminded me of you. No explanation. Just that. And I would stop whatever I was doing, put down my book, close my journal, and listen for him. I want to stop here for just a moment, because this is where it starts. Not with anything dramatic. Not with a fight or a red flag. Just, I started putting him where my own things used to be. The journal I wrote in every morning, I started skipping it because Well'd been texting late and I needed the sleep. The yoga class on Tuesday evenings, I started missing it because Tuesday evenings became our evenings. The books on my shelf, I stopped finishing them because reading felt lonely now when I could be talking to him. Small things, such small things, I didn't even notice. October came. We were walking through Central Park, leaves everywhere. That specific October light that makes everything look like a painting. He stopped in the middle of the path, turned to me, and said, "I think I'm in love with you. I've been trying not to be. It's not working, and I just needed you to know that." He looked terrified, like he'd just handed me something breakable. I looked at him, this person who had become the first thing I thought about in the morning, the last thing at night, the person I wanted to tell every small thing to. I said, "Good, because I've been trying not to be too, and it's really not working." He laughed, that laugh, and then he took my hand. And I thought, this is it. This is the thing. This is what everything was leading to. And it was. But not in the way I thought. Because the moment I said I was his, it stopped being mine, completely, willingly, happily. And I had no idea what that was going to cost me. The year that followed was the best year of my life. I need to say that clearly, because this is not a story about a bad relationship. Daniel was not a bad person. What happened to me was not his fault. That is the complicated part. That is the part that took me the longest to understand. We were happy. Genuinely, completely happy. We had our places. The coffee shop on 5th, a tiny Italian restaurant in Brooklyn, corner booth. The owner knew our order, a bench in Central Park. Third one from the east entrance, ours. He left notes in my jacket pockets. I'd find them days later when I reached in for my keys. Sometimes just one line, "You looked beautiful today." I forgot to say it out loud, so I wrote it down. I kept every single one. They're in a shoebox. In my closet. I haven't opened it. I don't know if I ever will. But here is what else happened that year. The part I didn't put in the shoebox. My best friend Maya. I slowly stopped showing up for her. Cancelled plans, rescheduled, cancelled again. She stopped asking eventually. I told myself she understood. I was in love. She understood. She didn't. I know that now. She was losing her best friend and I was too busy being someone's girlfriend to notice. My writing, the job I cared about. I stopped pitching new ideas. Stopped staying late to get a story right. Stopped caring the way I used to. Because my energy, all of it, was going somewhere else. And London. The dream I had been quietly building toward. A position opened up. At a publication I had wanted since I was 19 years old. I saw the listing. I stared at it for a long time. And then I closed the tab. I didn't even tell Daniel. He didn't ask me not to go. He didn't even know it existed. I just decided for him. Without him even knowing. I gave up London for a relationship that hadn't even asked me to. That is how deep it goes. That is how quietly it happens. You start making yourself smaller, not because anyone told you to, but because you love someone so much that their happiness starts to feel more important than your own, their comfort, their needs, their life, and you don't notice. Because it feels like love. It feels like devotion. It feels like the right thing. Nobody tells you that love is not supposed to cost you your dreams, your friendships, your voice, yourself. Nobody told me, so I kept paying, happily, until there was nothing left. It started in the second year. Small things, the way small things always start. He got busy. His final architecture project, deadlines, stress. I understood. Of course I understood. But the texts got shorter. The calls got fewer. The Wednesday coffee shop became every other Wednesday. Then once a month. Then when he had time, and something in my chest started pulling. That specific feeling you get when something is wrong, but you can't prove it yet. When your body knows before your mind is ready. Instead of listening to that feeling, I tried to fix it. I started trying harder. Being more available, more understanding, more patient, more everything. Cooked more. His favorites. Every week. Like if the pasta was good enough, he would come back to me. I stopped bringing up things that bothered me. The canceled plans, the shorter texts, the distance I could feel growing between us. I swallowed all of it, smiled, said I was fine. I asked him once, just once, "Are we okay?" He said, "Why do you always do this? Why do you always make things into something? I'm stressed. I'm busy. Can you just not right now?" I said, "You're right. I'm sorry." I apologized for asking if we were okay. I apologized for having a feeling. And then I never asked again. I want every person listening to hear this part clearly. The moment you apologize for having a feeling, that is the moment you have forgotten yourself completely. I had been so busy loving Daniel, taking care of Daniel, making space for Daniel, that I had stopped asking the most basic question. Is anyone taking care of me? Is anyone making space for me? Am I okay? The answer was no. It had been no for a long time. I just wasn't listening, because I had forgotten that my feelings were also worth listening to. It was a Sunday, November, that cold again. I had made pasta, his favorite. I had set the table properly, candles, his favorite music playing. I had spent 3 hours making everything perfect for him. It was always for him. He came in, looked at the table, looked at me, and said, "Sarah, we need to talk." The candles kept burning. The music kept playing. The pasta got cold. He said, "Growing apart. Needs space. Not the same anymore. So sorry." I sat very still. I wanted to say, "I gave you London. I gave you my Tuesdays, my mornings, my journal, my friends, my voice, my dreams. I gave you everything I had, and some things I didn't. And you are the one who isn't happy?" I didn't say any of it. Even at the very end, I swallowed my own words. For him. He said, "I'm sorry," 3 times, and then he left. 9:47 p.m. I know the exact time, because I looked at the clock. When the door closed, I needed to mark it, the exact moment. The apartment was silent. The candles were still burning. The music was still playing. And I sat at that table, the one I had set so carefully, and I looked around at this apartment that was suddenly entirely mine. And I realized I didn't know what I liked anymore. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know what made me happy when he wasn't in the room. I had loved him so completely, so much more than I had loved myself, that when he left, he took everything with him, including me. The first month was the hardest. I won't pretend otherwise. I won't wrap it in poetry and make it sound beautiful. It wasn't beautiful. It was lying on the bathroom floor at 2 a.m. It was eating cereal for dinner because cooking felt impossible. It was crying in the elevator so nobody at work would see. But something happened in that pain. Something I didn't expect. I started noticing myself again. One morning, maybe 3 weeks after he left, I woke up early. Couldn't sleep. And instead of reaching for my phone to check if he had texted, I reached for my journal. I hadn't opened it in almost 2 years. I wrote 3 pages. Just everything. All of it. Poured it out. And when I finished, I sat there and I felt something I hadn't felt in a very long time. Like myself, I called Maya, my best friend, the one I had slowly disappeared on. It rang 4 times. I almost hung up. She answered. I said, "I know I haven't been there. I know I disappeared. I'm so sorry. I don't really know what to say. I miss you. And I think I need my friend." She said, "I'll be there in 20 minutes. Put the kettle on." She was there in 15. That was the day I started coming back. I went back to yoga. The Tuesday evening class. My mat was still in the corner, like it had been waiting. I started finishing my books, one by one, just for me. No one to tell about them. Just me and the book and the quiet. And 6 months after Daniel left, opened my laptop. Found the listing, the one in London. A different position now, but the same publication. The same dream. I applied. I got it. I'm telling you this not because everything worked out perfectly, not because London fixed everything, but because I want you to know the dream was still there, waiting, the same way Maya was, the same way my journal was, the same way I was, underneath everything. Still there, still me. Here's what losing Daniel taught me. Here is what it cost me before it gave me something back. You can love someone deeply, completely, with everything you have, and you should. Love is supposed to be given fully, but you cannot give it at the cost of yourself. You cannot cancel your dreams for someone who might leave. You cannot silence your voice for someone who might not stay. You cannot disappear for someone who was never going to be there forever. Because when they go, and sometimes they go, you need to still be there. You need to still know who you are. You need to still have your journal, your yoga mat, your Maya, your London. I loved Daniel more than I loved myself. And here is exactly what it cost me. 2 years of my writing, my best friendship, almost permanently, my Tuesday evenings, my mornings, my voice, my dream for 2 years, and worst of all, myself. I lost myself, the girl with 2 plants on the windowsill, both alive, the girl who wrote every morning, the girl who had a life that was entirely her own. I had to find her again, piece by piece, in the wreckage of something beautiful. And if you are listening to this and you recognize yourself in the dreams you quietly closed the tab on, the friends you slowly canceled on, the voice you apologized for having, the version of yourself you set aside for someone else's comfort, please, hear this. You are allowed to love. Love fully, love deeply, love without holding back. But never, never love someone more than you love yourself. Because you are the only person who will be there for every single chapter of your life. Not Daniel, not anyone, just you. And you deserve to be loved by yourself first, most always.